Trucks represent a very important segment here in Malaysia, with more and more people using their trucks not only for utility but also as multi-purpose family vehicles. But there is no pickup truck more ubiquitous than the Toyota Hilux. Now available in GR Sport, guys, is this now the pickup to beat? Well, in this review, we'll find out. And before we do so, be sure to hit subscribe and hit the bell to be notified every time we make a new upload. But ladies and gentlemen, presenting to you the 2023 Toyota Hilux GR Sport. Now, as with any GR Sport model, Toyota has added quite a few bits and bobs in here that change the way the truck drives. So it's all things that you can't see. But that doesn't mean that they haven't changed any of the aesthetics, because as you can see, the front end of the Hilux GR Sport is certainly a lot more aggressive than anything else. Compared to the Rogue, for example, this is now all done in body color with a big black grille with Toyota scripting right across, which certainly makes this truck look very aggressive. Now, what I would like to note is the fact that this Toyota script certainly looks very nice, but my OCD, or attention to detail rather, means that I've noticed that this sits a little bit lower because it has to make room for the radar, which is not so nice. However, they have very neatly integrated the GR Sport badge here, which I quite like. Now, in terms of lighting, this car comes as standard with full LED headlights, replete with LED indicators and LED daytime running lights, as well as LED fog lights that live down here. And it's the same thing down the side, because aside from these stickers, there's very little to inform you that this is the hotter Hilux model. However, the more eagle-eyed among you may have noticed the red brake calipers hiding behind 18-inch alloy wheels wrapped in Toyota's Highlander highway terrain tires, which kind of alludes to the fact that this is mostly a lifestyle on-road kind of truck. You also get the GR badge there, body-colored over fenders, the black wing mirror caps, and on this car you also get the optional wind deflectors up here on the windows. The other thing that I also appreciate that comes as standard are the side steps, which come with a little bit of illumination, which I certainly appreciate, as well as this sports bar, which is done up in black, again, to fit the GR Sport theme. And it's the same case at the rear, because aside from the black rear bumpers, the black garnish and the GR Sport logo there, and of course the mandatory stickers which persist on pickup trucks for some reason, again, this looks like any other Hilux. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because the Hilux is kind of handsome in its own way, and most importantly, it comes with an assisted tailgate, which means it opens gently and it's very easy to lift shut. See? One-handed. Now, if I reopen the tailgate, because there are a few things I want to show you in here, you will find a standard size truck bed. This is no larger or no smaller than anything else that you get in the segment, but it does come with a branded bed liner, which apparently is not standard on all trucks. Trek. You also get bed lights. However, the bed lights are optional extras and they are mounted about here, which means if you have a load that is any taller than about there, the bed lights are not really going to do much at all. That said, however, at least there are these metal tie-down hooks, which I certainly appreciate, because again, I've only just realized that these are not always standard. Trek. Anyway, enough about that. How about the interior? Well, they've certainly done quite a bit in here. For starters, these front seats have been lifted out of another Toyota that I've forgotten. But I remembered when we first saw these cars launch, so you can check out that video up here. Forgive my memory. However, aside from the seats, everything in here has been very lightly dusted by the pixies at GR, because you now get a GR Sport steering wheel, which is leather wrapped with perforated leather where you hold it, and even a centerline marker and a GR badge on it, which I quite like. I also quite like these seats, because in addition to them not being standard Hilux seats, you also get the GR logo embossed in the headrest. You get this lovely suede microfiber material in the middle, replete with a little bit of leather and contrast stitching, and even some red leather up here on the shoulders, which I think look fantastic. Additionally, you get a very dark headliner with more black plastic about the place, and overall this interior is kind of dark, yes, but it's fitting with the sporty theme. And that also extends to the door cards, where you get more red stitching on top of leather pads, as well as this very dark chrome material, again, to make this truck feel a little bit more sporty than you might expect. That said, however, it is still a truck, and so you get this very upright dash with the infotainment system sat a little bit further away. You do get dual zone climate control here, and you get nice big chunky buttons for everything, which is always very nice to see. All the buttons on the steering wheel are also nice and big and chunky, and if for whatever reason you want to pick up truck with paddle shifters, this has them. Although not that you'll be manipulating the 6-speed box much anyway. Ahead of you also sits a reworked instrument cluster with new graphics, replete with a GR startup sequence, which I, again, very much appreciate. And as far as I'm concerned, the GR-ness of the Hilux seems to have been executed pretty well, because everything in here is, again, here to remind you this is a GR Sport model. Now, in terms of interior accoutrements, practicality is very, very well sorted, with big bins up here and down here. You also get big cup holders up here, another storage space in here, huge door bins with bottle holders, and overall it's all pretty good. You also get a couple of extra cup holders in front of the aircon vents, because apparently that's where everybody wants aircon vents. I mean cup holders these days. Now, in terms of tech, you get a digital instrument sort of meter that sits in the middle in between the two analog dials, which gives you all the relevant information. Now, I do find it a little bit small. The reason I mention that is because a lot of the functionality sort of overlays on top of each other. If you use the radar guided cruise control, for example, it covers up whatever displays you may already have on there, which again lends me to believe that this screen might benefit from being a bit bigger. The other thing that might benefit is actually this central infotainment screen, because it's very large and it's very snappy, and it also comes with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is certainly very appreciated, especially since this truck can be had with a wireless phone charger, which is not available in this one. But because of its position, it's quite low. Even in a truck where your eyes are kind of here, having the infotainment system here means that you will have to adjust your focus distance, and you will have to move your head quite a bit in order to get whatever information is being displayed here. That is not that smart. I would have preferred if this sat sort of on top of the dash, you know, like the Peugeot Landtrek. The other thing that the Peugeot Landtrek does a little bit better is the fact that at 120,000 ringgit, it has a powered front passenger seat. This is considerably more expensive, and the passenger seat is manual. The back of the Hilux is actually pretty nice, because for starters, the first thing that I've noticed in here is that these rear seats are mounted higher than the fronts, which means that I actually get a pretty good view over the front seats. These rear seat squabs are also quite long, and because of the way they're mounted, I can actually tuck my feet in underneath the seat in front of me, and I got pretty good under thigh support. The rear recline angle of the backrests are also pretty comfortable, which means that over a longer distance I wouldn't be too bad, although the center seat may be less so because it's not scalloped, and you also don't get that nice sort of microfiber material. It is nice and wide though, which means someone could actually sit here, at which point they'll be able to enjoy the nice air conditioning to their crotch, because these are mounted sort of like crotch coolers for whatever reason. I do not understand that. That said, however, beyond the teh tarik hooks and the aircon vents and stuff like that, there really isn't that much going on back here. There aren't even USB ports, which means that if you have children in child seats in the ISOFIX mounts on either of these seats, they won't be able to charge their iPads or mobile phones or whatever in order to entertain them throughout the drive, which means if you're driving over longer distances, you might actually have to parent. Ooh. You also don't get to blinds back here, which I know are absolutely impossible to find on trucks, but given the fact that these are now slowly becoming more and more like passenger cars for families, you might want blinds back here in order to keep the baby children safe from harm. You know what I mean? But that said, the seat bases do fold a little if you want a bit more space, although honestly you've got an entire truck bed, just use that. Now, while all these interior bits are nice, ultimately the thing about a GR Sport model is that it is about the way it drives, and so let's see if Toyota can make the Hilux as incredible to drive as the Vios GR Sport that we got acquainted with some time ago. The problem with using the GR Sport badge on a Hilux is the fact that as a result of the Vios GR Sport, that badge now means a lot more than one might think. The Vios, for example, the previous generation model, was pretty pathetic to drive. It was kind of slow, it was a little soft, it was very squidgy, it was far from being inspiring. Very comfortable and very quiet, sure, but aside from that, it was hardly a driver's car until the GR Sport badge arrived. Because the moment the Vios GR Sport came to the market, a lot of my colleagues and myself discovered that actually the Vios has a little bit of pep in it, and all it needed was, slightly reworked transmission, control unit, reworked throttle mapping, and a brand new suspension system. And as a result, it created a car that was actually fantastic to drive. And that sort of GR Sport magic has set expectations for every other subsequent GR Sport model. Now we also have a GR Sport Corolla Cross, which we hope to be reviewing quite soon. But right now, we've got the Hilux GR Sport. So a lot of people getting into this, a lot of people looking at this in showrooms would expect to find a little bit of that GR Sport magic. And unfortunately, that doesn't really seem to be the case. You see, with lifestyle pickups being as popular as they are, I have a sneaking suspicion that the GR Sport badge was added to this truck in order to increase and improve its lifestyle appeal and not really create, like a proper driver's truck, so to speak. I mean, creating a driver's truck is nearly impossible. And that seems to be the case here because the Hilux GR Sport does a few things considerably better than the Hilux Rogue that I suspect this truck is based on. So for starters, the suspension has been reworked slightly. So now on-road manners have been improved a little bit. In terms of the ride quality up front, it is quite nice, although at the back it is a little bit too stiff, although that's generally a pickup issue. And going over bumps will result in a little bit of hopping, and you will feel the stiffness from the rear end for as long as that truck bed remains empty. And then, of course, there is the steering, which in this truck hasn't been tweaked at all. Now, although this is a new steering wheel, yes, and you've got some new dials and stuff like that, unfortunately, this still drives like a Hilux, for better or worse. So you have a very ponderous steering wheel, which takes a lot of input to really get anything done, because this is still ultimately a truck. And then you've also got that sort of complete lack of communication from the wheel. Now, I understand that it being an electric power-assisted steering system, obviously there's not going to be that much feedback, but I would have expected a little bit more from something carrying the GR Sport badge. Now, of course, with the highway terrain tires and so on, this truck is now a lot more refined. It's a little quieter compared to the Rogue, with a lot less road noise, and wind noise is about the same as it always has been, which means that anything above 120 and you'll start to hear some whistling. But again, I fail to see where the GR Sport magic comes in, because as far as I'm concerned, this is still very much just a Hilux. Is it improved over a Rogue? Sure, it's definitely better suited for work on-road rather than off-road. But does that make it a GR Sport model? I'd disagree. And I think the part that bothers me most of all is the fact that Toyota could have very easily reworked things like the throttle and transmission mapping for this truck. Yes, we now get paddle shifters, however the throttle remains as recalcitrant and slow as it's ever been. So much so that more often than not, when I put in some form of input via the pedals, nothing actually happens. And I find that quite irritating, because I would expect this to be the sort of truck that you can enjoy driving. Evidently not. And it's the same thing with the throttle, because again, this car responds quite as lazily as any other Hilux, or in fact any other turbo diesel Toyota. And it is a little bit of a shame, because I expected this to be more of a driver's truck. Again, this is a markedly better truck for on-road use than any of the other Hiluxes in the range, especially compared to the Hilux Rogue, which I feel is geared a little bit more towards proper heavy-duty / lifestyle-y sort of thing, whereas this is a little bit more on-road lifestyle kind of thing. It's kind of confusing. But again, I'm just disappointed with the fact that this doesn't feel like a proper GR Sport model. And it's bittersweet, because when I test drove this car initially, you can check out our review of that here. I think I've plugged that video about 3 times now. But if you check out our review, I did mention the fact that there doesn't seem to be any noticeable change in terms of the driving mannerisms of the Hilux GR Sport over the regular Hilux. And I'm glad that I was right, but I'm also a bit sad that I was right, because I was hoping that over a weekend I'd discover some redeeming quality in the way this car drives, and unfortunately it doesn't. And in terms of outright agility, if agility is what you're looking for in a truck, although heaven forbid, why would you? Then unfortunately the Isuzu D-Max and Mazda BT50 remain better trucks to drive. And if you're looking for something that is a little bit more economical, because this 2.8 litre is hardly the most frugal thing in the world, then you may be better served by, again, the Mazda BT50, because not only is the 1.9 litre naturally more frugal, but so is the 3 litre. So yeah, and of course if you'd like a truck where you may be concerned about spare parts, you could also get a Ford Ranger, which looks great until the warranty runs out. So would I recommend the Hilux GR Sport? Well, if you really want Toyota reliability, and you will have to come to terms with the fact that you are going to be using your truck on road most of the time, then this is perhaps the most civilized Hilux that money can buy. But if you want your Hilux to do more heavy-duty things, then perhaps you'd be better served by a Hilux Rogue rather than the GR Sport. But ultimately, this is a Hilux, and as I mentioned at the beginning of this review, if you're looking for a pickup truck, you can't really go wrong with a Hilux. And if, again, you admit to yourself that you will be using your truck predominantly in town, and this is what it's going to be doing, then the Hilux GR Sport is the best on-road, in-town pickup truck, as idiosyncratic as that sounds. In any case, that's been our review of the 2023 Toyota Hilux GR Sport. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell icon so you're notified every time we make a new upload. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. All the links are in the description below. And while you're at it, if you made it this far in the video, why don't you leave a comment down below on which vehicle you'd like to see us review next, provided it's not a vehicle that you've never seen on the channel before, because chances are we don't have a relationship with those brands. In any case, thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Take care, stay safe, and jangan bodoh.